This is a 35 plus 3-4 race, raced together with the 45 plus 3-4, but scored separately. It's a San Rafael crit. It's a USA crit. It's one of the biggest crits. I think it's the biggest crit on the West Coast.
Yeah, I would definitely one of them. And it's got a huge crowd, a fun course. It goes all the way until 9:30 at night. It's pretty fun, right?
The pro field is like a little concert down here.
Mm-hmm.
Have you raced? You have, right?
Yeah, I've raced this a bunch of times. It's a really fun race.
And it can be scary because one, there's barriers, but two, there's a pretty fast downhill.
Yeah, we're rolling onto the backstretch right now, and it's got a kind of a gentle downward grade leaning into the last two corners, and then a nice fast downhill that you can go 35 miles an hour or 40 miles an hour through if you're crazy. Yeah,
I was scared of this one at first, but something happened. I'm no longer scared. I was taking the corner just fine.
Yeah, look at you leading yourself into the final corners. No, Nate did a really good job this time of capitalizing on his strength of now going downhill is a strength of yours.
Yeah, so like going into this, I wanted to be first wheel because you would get stuck behind people and they would hit the brakes. Then these big gaps would open and you'd have to then chase back on.
And that's what destroys you on a course like this. This is kind of it's a real rectangle, but it's tilted up. So you get 2 uphills and 2 downhills. And that pressure of always closing down gaps just makes this race so much harder. So
Pete told me, he said, I was proud of you. And then I was so not proud of you. So what did I do wrong here?
Well, so the first half of the race, you did a great job of kind of roving the front, staying top 5 wheels, covering moves that looked dangerous, but also taking into account who was going up the road and whether you really needed to worry about it. And a bunch of fresh riders also were closing down gaps for you. What you started doing at the end is you were just covering things because I think you started thinking about the sprint. Once we're 25 minutes in and the race is about 45 minutes long, so would you say already now you're thinking about how you're going to win the race?
Yeah, and I'm thinking, based on the last video, sprint into the second to last corner, be the first one into that corner, descend, and then I watched a lot of videos of other racers on this course. Almost always, besides Justin Williams, he was third wheel. The first wheel out of that corner won each and every sprint I looked at. And then Justin Williams was third, and he's Justin Williams, so he got first.
Yeah. No, so you were doing a good job, and this is where I think we could have made you apply a little bit more pressure. We didn't know that you were going to have this strength of going down the hill.
Look at the gap.
Yeah, it's so good. Now imagine if you were pedaling for 5 seconds at 400 or 500 watts into each of these downhills. Oh man,
this was like the only time that we kind of did it well. This is another TrainerRoad user ahead of me. He ended up getting, I believe, second. So what I did, I was thinking of the way Mark Tucker did this in the Auburn crit, where he just gapped us all, and then he would rest every time. But then that would go into the difference on that one is he would rest, we would chase back on, and then we'd go into a very steep long hill. We get tired again, and he was fresh. Where this hill right here is just so quick. It almost doesn't even feel like a hill. You go up 20 miles per hour.
Yeah, or 30 miles an hour. A bunch of the times you're going through the start-finish straight at 30 miles an hour. So you can just see how that doesn't quite, it's not quite the same. Auburn's really hilly. This is tough, but not really dragging on you. So this is what I started to notice on this latter half of the race. The Penn Velo guys they weren't really attacking. Like you said, this wasn't hard, but you're still the one shutting them down. And even though it's not difficult, you're still the one that's making all these moves.
It's because we are frenemies. Penn Velo versus me sometimes.
So now this is where if it was up to me, I would say just counterattack this guy. And that way you punish them a little bit, and you make some of their teammates have to chase you down. And if it's solo, it's hard. I mean, I know you don't want to solo for 20 minutes on this course, but if you're just riding tempo or sweet spot and accelerating on the downhills, you'll be able to keep the pressure on the race. And so you can see everybody bunch up behind you, and this is where the counterattacks just start kind of going at the end of the race. And everybody is attacking into the hill, and you're going 20 miles an hour into the hill instead of 25. And then look, you're going to do
accelerate too much.
Yep.
So I slowed. This is my problem. I was on the front, and I should have either just kept it up, or been somewhere in a draft, because then people can accelerate past me. I don't get the benefit of the draft, and I have to accelerate, which is hard.
Exactly. And so you did a great job of that in the first half. Anybody can watch the full-length video, but this one, you just start letting things happen a little more up to everybody else rather than you kind of taking the race by the scruff of the neck. Here's another good example where you pedaled hard into the downhill, which is perfect. That's what we want. But you're really just covering a move.
Yeah.
So if you would have kept the pressure on the last half a lap, you would be up with those guys instead of shutting it down.
So this descent is what I should. This is hitting at 35. Look at the gap behind me. I should have been doing this every single time.
Yep.
And then, 400 watts maybe till the start finish.
Yep, exactly. And then probably someone will feel like you guys have something to work with, and so they'll start pulling through. This was a good job. I think you riding through these guys, if you would have kept doing this over and over, that would have made the race so much different. And a bunch of the guys who were sitting the last 20 wheels would have never even known what the front of the race was doing. That's how
they never see it.
They never would have seen it, and that's what this pressure is all about.
How do you know when you should be pushing the race like that, or when you should just be sitting in? We got a little gap right here.
Yeah,
too.
so that's how you really know. If you get to the top of the climb, or kind of after the crux of the course, and you look behind you, and either it's strung out single file and you still feel good, or you already have that gap. You don't have to go really hard, but it's that pressure, and the pressure is what keeps everybody away from you and really limits the amount of people who can ride with you at this point in the race.
I was afraid of going solo because watching other videos, people said no one ever brakes don't stick here. So I was like, well, why would I put the effort out for a brake?
Yeah, just to get brought back.
Yeah.
And so here's
the pressure you're saying. I could have done more pressure. I need a teammate.
I know you do.
Jonathan. Then we could have had so much pressure.
So here's where you pull off. Like you guys had that little bit of gap, and then
anymore.
Yeah, now it's gone.
So I could have, like on that section, they kind of just caught on before the downhill. I could have accelerated through the downhill again, rested on the downhill, kicked out a little bit, and everyone would have been tired again.
Yep, and that's the idea, is if everybody's on the ropes for the whole second half of the race, you're only racing against 5 guys anyways.
That's such a good point too, is that, so whenever I sprint against a sprinter who's like fresh, they beat me every time. Yep. But I beat Jose's our local best sprinter. When he's on the ropes, I can beat him. So I feel like I can beat, if people are tired, my sprint kind of stays the same.
Exactly.
Where that's your, so that's, I guess that's the chance if you are, that's what you need to do if you're not a sprinter, is make the sprinters tired.
And since you do have that fitness advantage over most of the people in this race, man, you get to really control it with the pressure. And so here you're on the front again, and if you just did 500 watts for 5 seconds going into this, and then everybody's strung out again, and a bunch of guys would get discouraged because they just wouldn't even be close to the front of the race.
And it's hitting the brakes on this corner right here. People will hit their brakes and see the gaps opening right now. Then you don't get the draft on this really fast, 33, 34.
Yep,
miles per hour.
And this is the hardest stretch of the race right here. Every year I've done it, this is where the pain really happens, and you kind of get a little bit of a rest going into the hill. So again, you're on the front, and I don't think that it's wrong, but this is where I would put the pressure back on. And but everybody is going to pass you going into the hill. You're going nice and slow into the hill, and then you have to do the effort again.
Yeah, and then I got to accelerate.
So then there's Penvelo kind of punishing you again. Yeah, it's hard. We kind of didn't do a good enough job telling you exactly your options going into this race.
I need more coaching, Pete. Tell me exactly what to do, and I'll try to do that.
So let's jump up to 36 minutes in. So look, you're on the front again. This is a good example of, I was kind of thinking terrible teamwork, but as you can see, we're getting close to the end of the race. There's about 9 minutes left in the race. And so you've got the 2 Penvelo guys, and kind of the same protagonists are at the front of the race every time. So they attack up this hill. He's got a teammate. So this is where the teammate should have just let him go, and then you would have had to shut it down like you've been shutting it down all race. Yeah. So this is where you realize it's a little threatening, and you come around him, and you start to cover this move.
And now he shuts it down.
And now he shuts it down. He should have done that in the hill, but now you come around to chase it down, and he starts chasing you. This is one of those ones where if you would have just pressured through these guys, let's see what happens.
So I thought right there he shouldn't have chased me, because we probably would have had a breakaway.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure, right?
So you do a good job of passing those guys into your strength, and that's what's really important on a course like this, is that when you get to the place in the course where you're the best or better than most of the riders, it's really important for you to be at the front of the race and you be able to pick your line. But as you can see now, you eased off, and then...
Yeah, this is a preem, so
gotcha.
I just let him go.
So then now is when you want to counterattack the preem, right?
I know. I know these things, Pete. But it's still I always thought the solo wasn't going to stick, and Penvelo has 5 guys. They're strong, and we all know each other's names. We're talking before and after the race. Very nice guys, good racers. They counter me, so I'm just thinking I'm gonna have a team of 5 trying to chase down just me.
Yep.
But what you said is you got to break away with a Penn Velo guy.
Yeah, and if you could drag one of those guys up, and like you said, they might not work with you, but the idea being, if one of the teammates is with you, at least they won't be chasing, right?
Yes. Well,
So that's,
they did last lap, but
we'll have to see what happens. Let's jump to 2 laps to go and see how this finishes up for you. So here we are at 2 laps to go. I swear the whole video I saw you first or second or third wheel, and now all of a sudden you're 15 wheels back. Small exaggeration. But no, this is where a lot of the guys who weren't having to cover anything or weren't having to do any work and are a little more sprinty are all of a sudden everybody's excited. They think they can make it to the end. And like you can see, everybody has enough effort to kind of fight for those corners.
I got cut off right there, and I'm sorry for everyone behind me.
Yeah.
I tried to sneak in, but it didn't work. So I always thought, too, on this section, there was a good place to pass because it was pretty open.
And it was. And I kind of wanted you to move up right here.
Yeah,
but,
I do. I think I do, don't I?
Yeah, so imagine if you did it all the way and just put yourself back in 5th wheel. I know we were worried about you being too close to the front, but you don't pass anybody with 2 laps to go. And I was thinking, man, think if Nate was 5th wheel right now. There's a nice little gap. You can see it all happening. And then you get the speed into the hill on 1 lap to go.
Oh, so many bad. This hurts.
So, but here's where you start to realize that it must be 1 lap to go or 1.5 laps to go. And so now you know that you need to start moving up. You're kind of in this boxed in side. And on the last lap, you did a good job of picking the outside going into the hill. And you really want as much speed going into the hill, especially during the laps where you're going very fast. So now you're going 25 in.
This is 2 laps to go now. So
So 2 laps to go. See how much better this line is than the line you took previous.
Yeah.
A little more room, and I think on this lap you do pass a handful of guys.
I went on that inside one before because I think I'd done it before. You could sneak by some people, but I just got cut off.
Yeah, in the last couple laps, everybody fills in all those voids that were there the whole race.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it changes the openings.
Yeah, the openings change.
So I tried going right. There was nothing there.
Yep.
Now I'm going left, and there's still kind of
everybody's actually working hard, right?
I know.
So that's another good takeaway, and for almost everybody, get to where you want to be for the final laps with 5 laps to go or 4 laps to go, and then fight for position rather than have to make up all these spots. So there's really only like 12 guys ahead of you, right?
Yeah.
More or less. And
I'm thinking now it's go time.
Yeah, we got to.
I'm going to accelerate past everybody.
You got to win, right?
Yep.
So you start passing everybody, and I think this is the right move. You go left, and you're going to take a bunch of speed into the hill. You're going faster than everybody. This is exactly what you should be doing.
I think I'm going to slingshot. I'm about to launch up hard. Oh, my goodness. Oh, gosh. My heart is at 1,000 beats per minute. And I pull over because, I could have tried jumping back in, but I probably would have caused another crash.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
What a disappointing finish.
Yeah.
Let's go over how that crash happened.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important for everyone to learn. So we're coming here, and it's kind of 2 people are doing things at once, and both people could have probably solved it. So if you look at the Penn Velo guy, he's looking right.
Yep.
And I'm not sure why he is looking right for so long, but we were thinking maybe he was told to watch the inside to make sure no one comes through.
Yeah, protect the inside. And on the this corner is usually the dangerous corner, not for what happened this time, but usually people dive bomb that inside line on this first turn. And so he's making sure he can shut that down in case anybody tries. But in the same time, he's not looking to his left.
Yep. So as he's drifting left, the guy in the green is turning into him.
Yep. He starts his turn a little bit early. It's debatable, but really, if you're not looking, it's really hard to know when you hit somebody what to do.
Yeah. Look how close my tire is from me going down hard. And so luckily he was okay. He's got a bamboo bike, by the way. Tire came off the rim. That didn't cause it, by the way. It was the crash. And he just got some rub rash on his back. Didn't hit his head, which is very nice.
That's good.
Brian Larson in the P12 race hurt himself pretty bad.
Yeah.
We'll put a link down in the description of this if you want to donate to him for his medical bills. But also, let's look at this from behind me. I'm so sorry, the guys behind me. One of them was a TrainerRoad user or podcast listener, but they kind of had nowhere to go too. So let's watch this. they go just right into the barriers. We talked about this at TrainerRoad HQ. If there were no barriers there, you just go straight. You'd be fine.
Yeah, you'd be fine.
There'd probably be a couple cones, dodge somebody.
Yeah.
But, oh, bam.
Fences are hard.
Yeah, and luckily, too, they didn't hit their head. They're perfectly fine. We talked about it afterwards.
Yeah.
These things happen. I was even at the front of the race. That's the frustrating part, right? So I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with a big speed differential. So I'm going 29 right now, 21.
Yeah, I think.
So it hurts.
I think
who knows what would happen? But
who knows? But things were looking good.
Things were looking good. But that's racing.
Yeah, that's racing. If man, yeah, next year, right?
Well, we'll see about. I don't know about next year on this one.
Well, yeah, it's a fun course though. I'm glad to see that you're picking up the downhills.
How about next year if I'm off the front?
Yeah, just solo it.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm Nate.
And I'm Pete.
And if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up.
If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com. Thumb wrestle. 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare thumb war.
Yours is so long.
That's what.